Hi, and welcome to FibreTown. I'm Emily, and this is episode 2. You can find me on Ravelry on Chain of Fools, also on YouTube, and on my blog, fibretown.blogspot.com, and that's fiber with an R-E. I also have a Ravelry group with a lot of members. I wanted to say hello to everybody today, but it may just take too long. Let's see where I get with that. First off, just thank you for coming to see me, and if you join the group, thanks so much for doing that too. It's very exciting. Let's see. We have Carla from Illinois, Jan from New Jersey. In Minnesota, we have Dorothy and Megan. New York, we have Christine and Marion. Hello. Colorado, we have Chris and Diane from Knittables. Thanks so much, Diane. Let's see. Mississippi, we have Amy of the Knitting in Circles podcast. Hi. From Michigan, we have Christy and Ting Ting, who's from Ann Arbor, which is my hometown. I was born there. Let's see. From Virginia, we have Annie. Hello. She's the source of a lot of my great yarns. Caroline. Hi. Jenny and Jill. Maine, we have Heather Boutros Babe from the Fiberista Files, another great podcaster. California, Angela, Patricia, Sarah. We have Courtney from Maryland. Daniela from Tennessee, who is Gert from Caffeinated Knitting, another favorite. And from Pennsylvania, we have Ken from Philly. Hello. Let's see. From Ohio, we have Joyce and Melody. From DC, we have Emily, who has the What You Swatchin' podcast, which is another favorite. Massachusetts, Michelle. Let's see, Kimberly from Florida, and she's another podcaster, Sock Bunny Knit and Fit podcast, another great one. We have Lori from Iowa, Kat from Texas, another podcaster, Wendy Silly Frou, awesome, from South Carolina. From Arkansas, we have Debbie. Let's see, Scotland, we have Lena. Sweden, we have Heidi. Let's see, from Canada, we have a lot of people. It's awesome. Let's see, Darla, Claudia, Janie, Allison, Ruth, Chrissy, a podcaster also. She has the Stitches podcast, which is one of my regulars. Let's see, Tanya and Rena. And I believe I had a few people without a location, but they are Sylvia, Dixie Doll, and Maggie, whose Ravelry ID is Mac. That's a lot of people. That's awesome, though. I'm excited. So thanks you guys. Let's get right down to the knitting. What you knitting, kitten? Well, I have some show and tell. I have a pair of mittens. A whip, long time coming. Now it's an FO. These are, I'm calling them the Sap and Thistle Mittens. They are the Mittens for Me pattern by Laura Linneman. They're out of Brooklyn Tweed Loft in Thistle and Sap. And they fit beautifully. They're just cozy, not too bulky, and I like them a lot. So that will go in my mitten stash. And my second FO is right over here. Don't have a model, so I've got a little hanger. This is the Liesel out of Tessa's Designer Yarns, Superwash Merino. And I knit this on a size 10. I believe the pattern calls for a 7mm, which is an odd size you don't often find in American needle sizes. But it's, I believe, a 10 in, either a 10.75 or a 10 7/8 US. But I went down to a size 10 and I made the smallest pattern, the smallest size. I wish I had stayed with a 10 and 0.75 because it is a little tight up here. But it works. You can still button the 2 buttons. The length is perfect. It's nice and long, and the sleeves were easy. She just wanted short ones, so there we are. Nice little FO. Hang her up right there. So that's my show and tell. Not much, but I have a lot of whips and a lot of things brewing that I'd like to get started on. So, works in progress. Last week I told you I was going to start knitting a pig. And this week I have a pig's hiney. I just stuffed the main part of the body. And yeah, so I need to go ahead and knit the snout and then all the other little appendages. I wanted to show you all a trick for stuffing that was taught to me by my mother-in-law. She used to work in a factory in France that made stuffed animals, but her job was to make the prototype stuffed animals. She had to figure out the best and most economical use of fabric, etc., etc. So her job was to determine all that. She's an amazing seamstress. But she showed me a technique for stuffing and for getting stuffing distributed evenly. And this is not the right, you should get a bigger needle. But what she did, I saw her do it once, and she was making something for my daughter. She would just work the needle, because sometimes, see how it's not evenly stuffed. It's flat on this side. She would just poke around with her knitting needles, especially if there was a narrow part that the stuffing had to get into. She just poked that knitting needle all around, sometimes through the knitting, until it was the shape she liked. Because it is, that polyfill does have a tendency to flatten out in places. So that's just a little tip from my mother-in-law. She's retired now. But she's a great knitter and a crocheter, and she does bobbin lace, which is amazing to see. Okay, my sock, my hand-spun sock. I have just started the heel flap. I've knit my leg, and I'm just starting to do about a 2.5-inch heel flap, so that's what I'm working on now. It's coming along nicely. So we will see. It's not going to match this one. It's not going to be matchy-matchy. That's okay. All right, so that is my sock. The next work in progress is really just still a swatch. But it's a tiny one. This is for the burdock cardigan by, okay, I'm not going to remember the designer, but it's from November Knits. And this is the swatch so far. I think, I haven't washed it obviously, it's not done. But so far it's looking good for gauge. And the stitch, I wasn't sure if I would like doing this stitch, but I do. It's not tricky at all. And it's not fiddly. This is, I'm swatching with Malabrigo Rios in the Cocoa colorway. Just a brown. I think it'll be a very useful cardigan. I'm a little worried I don't have enough of the Rios left, but I always seem to find that I never use the top amount recommended in patterns, the top amount of yarn for my size. I always have tons left over, so I might wing it and risk having to make shorter sleeves. Alright, so that is getting going. My last work in progress is that pink hobbledehoy hand spun, and I haven't touched it. So, but I did have a nice idea from my friend Leanne, who thinks this should become a longer cowl, not the Wham Bam Thank You Lamb. You know what? I'm just gonna rip the needles out. I think she's right. I think that I have lots of yarn to make this work, and it would be a shame to just make a short cowl and not have enough. So there you go. It's off the needles. I'll make it a long cowl, maybe one that I can wrap around a few times. Okay, so those are the whips. Upcoming, I'm still thinking about the Lucy hat from Knit Scene. I showed you all that last time, and that's kind of a cloche, it's kind of flapper looking. And I'm going to use Madeline Tosh Vintage in Flash Dance. This was a gift from my amazing friend Angie. Thank you. And I think I'm going to make the band this just gray superwash merino as a contrast. So that's brewing in my head there. And the other thing I'm thinking about doing is a hat. And it's the, I tried to say this correctly last time, Wind's Chief by Stephen West. That's how you spell it. And this is beautiful. It's got twisted stitches, and I just think it's gorgeous. Let me show you all another picture. It's just a beanie style. Here's one, a different color. I think it's beautiful. Don't know who it will be for or what I will make it out of, but it's definitely on my list. I need to buy it first, though. My last up-and-coming brewing project is weaving, and this was another gift from Angie. Happy birthday, Emily. And this is from Blue Ridge Yarns. I believe this is the same dyer that I talked about last week in Amosville. And this is called Blue Ridge Yarns Footprints. It's in the Apple Rose colorway. And you see it comes with a little heel toe, and then this beautiful, beautiful reds, greens. Actually, they're goldish greens and grayish greens. What I'm thinking is using this red for the warp, the vertical threads of the weave, and then using this for the weft to go back and forth. It might end up being a very skinny scarf. Perhaps I should do it the opposite. Make this be the warp and this the weft, or some combination thereof, but I just think that would be beautiful. A fringe of this nice red or a fringe of the various colors in this. So I need to get that on my loom. So yeah, that's exciting. I'm gonna get that started soon. Weaving is, the setup I'm finding takes much longer than the actual weaving, warping the loom. But I learned through a Craftsy class. It's just called Rigid Heddle Weaving. Talking is hard. Rigid Heddle Weaving, and I believe the teacher is Angela Tong. Just every time I put a new weaving project on the loom, I just refer back to the class if there's a step I don't remember. So I would highly recommend that class. I got it, I think, for $19.99 when it was on sale. So highly recommend that if you're interested. And I think the class shows how to weave on a shacked cricket and a Kromsky as well, but I think the techniques are applicable to pretty much any rigid heddle loom out there. So, all right, let me show you some spinning. I got ahead of myself and got carried away with the whole Knittables color spinning, and I was supposed to wait till February to start. So I spun that one bobbin of Chipotle, and then I realized my mistake, and I got permission from Diane to hold off on the rest, and I'll still be able to enter it. So I don't know what that's going to end up looking like, but we'll see. I did start spinning for the Rare Breeds spin along that Joanna of Knit Spin Farm is doing, and I pulled some Jacob out of my stash, and this is the second time I've spun Jacob, but this is very different from the previous Jacob I did. The other one was a very charcoal gray, and just not much less softness than this particular Jacob. So here it is. I'm gonna make a 3-ply. See if that will focus. Well, that's about as good as we're gonna get. Just woolen spun. Again, kind of rustic, but it has a good squish factor. So I think it'll make a lovely 3-ply. The other balls, this will be bobbin 2, bobbin 3, and then I'll ply them all together. So that's just need to sit down and do it. It's a very, very sheddy spin. I need a cloth on my lap when I spin this, otherwise I have little hairs everywhere. Okay, so my other spinning, that was from that Jacob I got. Look at this, the price of that. 5 ounces for $4. That was at the Shenandoah Valley Fiber Festival, and that was from Meduseld. And I remember them. They were a family from West Virginia, and they had the most amazing maple syrup. They had samples of it, and I was like, I'll buy everything you have. Not really, but I wanted to. but an excellent price for their Jacob. So, okay, the other spinning project is an epic ongoing thing, but I thought I'd share it. My parents last summer went to Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and that's the heart of Amish country. And they stopped for some unknown reason. They saw a sign for an alpaca farm, and they said, hey, let's check it out. It was Zephyr Alpaca Farm, and it's in Ronks, Pennsylvania. So my mother called me and said, do you want a baby alpaca fleece? Out of the blue. And I had a brief talk with her. I had her ask the farmer some questions. And I said, sure. Bring me a fleece. So they did. And it was from a baby alpaca named Hayes. And he had apparently his fleece had won an award. But this man just had more fleeces than he knew what to do with. So I said, don't pay more than $30 for it, because I went online quickly and Googled how much you pay for an alpaca fleece. He wouldn't take more than $20. They offered him $30. I tried. It's like a cloud. It's like putting your hands in a cloud. And I went online and researched how to spin alpaca, and a lot of people said, spin it dirty. It doesn't have lanolin like sheep, so the dirt and the dust might give you more traction when you spin it, because it can be very slippery. I was okay with that because there's not I don't think there's much poop in an alpaca fleece, just a lot of dust, because they do like to roll around on their backs and take a dust bath. I spun some of it, enough to make these mittens. What is it with me and mittens? I like mittens. But these are the best cold weather mittens. The cold doesn't even touch your hands when you're wearing alpaca mittens. And I spun that fiber dirty, and I just it got dirt all over my wheel. So I said, all right, I'm going to have to wash this whole thing. And it wasn't very heavy, maybe 2 pounds, 2.5. So I completed all the washing maybe in October, November. And then when I got my drum carder, there, I got that this Christmas. That was my gift. I proceeded to card all of the baby alpaca fleece. So that's epic, right? I'm not overusing the word. It's a lot of alpaca. I want to spin it all and make a blanket. Because really, I don't want a sweater. It's going to be too hot. It's not going to have the right bounce and memory and elasticity that wool does. But it's going to be super warm. So I think a blanket's a great use for it. So far I have about 200 yards spun. Again, a 3-ply. So soft. Some alpaca I just find super scratchy. Not my baby alpaca. Not my little Hayes. He's super soft. So there you go. That's my last spinning object. I hear the pitter-patter of little feet. Hopefully they're not going to bother me. Okay, so we're almost done. I just wanted to show you all a past finished object. And this is the Babette blanket by Kathy Merrick. And I wanted to get a little crochet in there today because I like my crochet. So the Babette blanket was a project that took me about 6 months start to finish. And during that time, whenever I had an extra $10, I would pop by my local yarn store and I would buy a skein of Noro Kurion. And my friend Leanne gave me a skein or two, and I think my friend Angie gave me a skein. People contributed to my blanket because the Babette is another epic work. So I made it all out of Kurion. And I'm going to see if I can show it to you. Would you like to help me hold this?
Yeah, and Mommy, next.
Okay, grab this end. Take a look. All right. So this is a granny square, obviously, granny square blanket.
Well, here again.
It's impossible to show this well. Oh, there's one of my favorite colors. Anyway, you get the idea. You can see it on my Rav page.
Mommy, I want
No, no.
to. Mommy.
So, almost done here. I just wanted to share what I'm wearing today. This is the Breezy Cardigan by Hannah Fettig. And this is one of the most wearable things I've ever made. It's out of Volmisa lace garn in We're Different Golden Pear, and I think I knit it on size 6 needles. It's the first Volmisa I ever got, and I only have one other, but I bought it sight unseen on the website. I didn't know what color it was going to be. There was no picture. I just kind of got Volmisa fever and went for it. So, the Breezy Cardigan. Super wearable. It's got these long fronts. Took me about a year to knit it, all told, because it's just miles of stockinette, but I wear it all the time. So I wanted to say thanks again for visiting with me. I hope you liked everything I showed you, and come and join the Ravelry group. It's FibreTown, and on Ravelry, and on Blogspot, and on YouTube. And I will see you next time. Thanks for coming to FibreTown. Bye.